Hey you, yeah, you. Have you ever found yourself trying to overchart your favorite song on Clone Hero only to place about 13 notes down before giving up? Have you ever had trouble tempo mapping your favorite bisexual R&B singer's new hit? Do you struggle to come up with patterns that flow well into each other? Well, if you suffer from any of these issues,
I think I can help.
hi, my name is Slidewhistle, and today I would like to present to you the official OOS clan charting tutorial. But before we begin, I would like to give everyone a public service announcement. Stop calling shit Wii charts if it has strum notes. I've been noticing this trend recently of people putting strums in so-called Wii charts, which makes absolutely no sense. The whole fucking point of a Wii chart is that it has only tap notes. Doesn't matter if there's only one strum note, and I certainly don't give a fuck if you can come up with a clever pun for the chart name. That is not a Wii chart, okay? Let's make that very clear from the get-go. Alright, now onto the actual tutorial. Make your chart good. Some general stuff to consider is making sure that your chart is tempo mapped properly. All of the I and I stuff, make sure the patterns you're charting are actually on the beat line. Chart stuff that's actually on the beat of the song, such as if you have triplet patterns, make sure you're charting them in 3 sets. And what we've been doing recently for OOS Hero and for Willy Pack, adding the skill set of the song in the genre. Perhaps you could try that as well. If you follow these guidelines, you should end up with a pretty high quality chart to begin with. Make your chart fun. Now, this may sound a lot more subjective. No, charting is an art at the end of the day, but in general, you don't want your chart to be too gay baby hero, aka slow ass patterns, slow ass notes, basically like low NPS gameplay, and you don't want it to be impossible either. You know, people actually like playing the game instead of just looking at it. So keep in mind that there are a lot of charts that are fun but aren't very good to begin with, and also vice versa. Also, if you're doing a whole set list, make sure you have a lot of difficulty variety because people won't like playing
exclusively
stupid shit or boring shit. Make your chart unique. This is probably the most subjective of the 3 categories, but at the very least, you should pick a song that sounds good, at least to you. Don't just copy another chart bar for bar, unless you're doing like a cover of the song or something. But even then, make sure it at least sounds good, cause ain't nobody trying to play no Lean's World piano cover or some shit. On the other hand, having patterns that reference other songs is perfectly fine. People like playing shit that they've already learned. And also, don't chart patterns that are too learny or brain rotted unless that's actually the style of chart you're going for. Keep in mind that they do increase the difficulty of the chart by a significant amount. Be decent at the game. This isn't required, but generally speaking, the better you're at the game, the more you can understand what's actually fun to play. I'm speaking from experience here. Anyway, that should cover about all of the general rules that you should follow, so on to the next chapter.
Hey everyone, welcome to my awesome tempo mapping tutorial. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna go to the first big beat line. You're gonna place a BPM marker, and then while holding control, you're gonna right click and align it with the waveform. And there you go.
After this, you can look up the BPM of the song on Google, but if it's a more obscure song that nobody actually knows, you might have to BPM tapper it yourself, which shouldn't be too hard. I mean, we are rhythm game players after all, and if your BPM seems to never align, the BPM of the song might just be fluctuating, in which case just keep placing more of those BPM markers at whatever distance you want, depending on how accurate you want it, until you've got something that aligns until the end of the song. I'm honestly not too experienced in making accurate charts personally, but from the little experience that I do have, I don't know, you just kind of do it by ear, even if it's not 100% accurate. Personally, some of my favorite, so to say, accurate charts are the Dream Theater instrumental medleys that Brandon made, which aren't perfectly accurately charted, but I feel like that makes them more fun in the end. What the fuck? What do you mean this isn't exactly like playing the real guitar? Fucking scammer!
Que tengo los cascos.
Well, now we're getting into the real meat of this tutorial, so let's start off with the meatiest of all the skill sets, which is, of course, tapping. Here I've made a little cheat sheet for you, and if this seems a bit overwhelming to read at first, let me just go over it real quick. On all of the rows you can see the different kinds of patterns that you can chart, such as trills, trips, quads, quints, sweeps, cacks, and slides, and some bullshit with tap chords. And on the columns you can see the different steps in which you chart each of these given patterns. Now obviously this doesn't cover every pattern, which is what this little paragraph at the bottom is describing, and for your convenience I added a little fast pattern NPS reference in the corner. Now obviously this is for more pattern based gameplay, which most people find fun, but you could always go the freeform sweeps route if you really want people to not play your charts, and of course a link to this cheat sheet will be put in the description of the video. Now as for how to actually make your tapping fun, try charting varying speeds for patterns. You can always take one of the steps for one of the patterns from the cheat sheet and multiply it by 1.5 to make it 3 set, or multiply it by 0.75 to make it a slow 3-set. Make sure you're not charting anything too bursty though, especially in more stamina oriented charts, as it can get very tiring very quickly for most people. Also, I would say anchor switches for rake patterns are very finicky to actually get right. Just proceed with caution. Also, generally speaking, you want your charts to be sight readable, as most people won't give it more than one look if it doesn't feel fun the first time. So try not throwing in weird method changes within pattern. You can always just go back to the old bread and butter and just chart basic descending trips and quads and whatnot. And also, sometimes you might not have the cheat sheet immediately on hand and they're too lazy to look for it, or you might be charting patterns in a weird step that's not on the cheat sheet. So here's how to properly use equal spacing. So what you're gonna want to do is just lay out the pattern that you want to chart, ideally in a way faster step, something like this. And then once you have that whole pattern charted out, just place a note on the next beat line, select everything, go down here, hit equal spacing, and delete that, and there you go. Also, if you're charting zigzags that start on the highest note, make sure you're charting them like this, not like this. This also applies for quad zigs, obviously. And if anyone tells you otherwise, then they're probably a boomer, which means they probably main arg, which is an interesting contradiction, but I won't get into it. As for more technical charting, like chording and Alströms and whatnot, you want to follow the same general rule of differing speeds for differing patterns. If you're charting more bursty strumming stuff, like lines of strums that end in chords or lines of chords that end in another chord or stuff like that, you generally don't want the bursts of strums to be above like 24 NPS. For more sustained strumming, like literal straight line strumming, make sure it's around 20 to 21 NPS at most, since past that it gets into genetic territory for most people. And for patterns where you're changing your fretting constantly, it's more complicated and depends on the specific pattern, but as a rule of thumb, you should cap out at about 16 NPS. Charting common box chord patterns is always a good route to go, stuff like X chords, murderous chords, etc., but just don't overdo them. Right here I just wrote pull-offs, so yeah, pull-offs. The more you vary the amount of strums in a burst throughout the chart, and by extension the strum orientation you end on, the harder it gets, which is kinda obvious but good to keep note of when balancing techie charts. Also, get creative with tap and hopo notes that auto hit, and also tap and hopo chords. And if you're trying to do something a little easier, you can always do hopo sweeps that can be one-handed, like in glitter charts. Now, as for making your charts actually flow well, it's better in general for variety charts specifically if you have longer stretches of tapping and technicality rather than mixing them up every second. On the other hand, teleporty sections can be fun. Basing a whole chart off of them can get tiring and oftentimes becomes learning. If you just do a staggering 8 type section or sprinkle easier teleports throughout the chart like in old gorilla charts, then that should be fine. And this is something that I personally do a lot, is if you want smoother transitions from tapping to tech or vice versa, you can use some kind of slow hopo thing like descending or ascending quads or even trills or tap chords. Flow is a very important concept to grasp when charting, and it's not something that's very easily explainable, but of course you can just do whatever, and at the end of the day, the most important thing you can do is just make more charts until you get better at it. Unless you're making some impossible bullshit, there's always gonna be a chart for someone, so just do it. And that about wraps it up for the tutorial, but there's just one more thing I need to tell you. If OOS Hero is already out, feel free to skip this segment. We are opening guest chart submissions for OOS Hero. As for the submission rules, we're doing 3 charts per person at most, unless you're an OOS clan obviously. Charts must be of a decent quality following the tutorial, so just kinda do what I told you and it should be fine. And don't chart something that we're already doing, although the chance of that is pretty small. Anyway, we'll let you know. More details will be posted in the OOS Academy server, so join up if you're not already there. Anyways, Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays to everyone. This has been Slide Whistle. Peace.